and welcome back to the Bird Brief. This is Stephanie Jenkins Aslett, avian ecologist, giving you the rundown on the most recent happenings in birds, both in popular news and in published research throughout the world. Today we're going to talk about how the government in Australia is working hard to keep the bird flu out of their country, how microplastic-free encapsulation and how that benefits birds, the global surge in bird feeding during COVID-19 and what that means for birds today, to illegal killing of birds of prey in the UK, and how birds are adapting to climate change. Are they doing it quickly enough? Let's get started. Our first story takes us to Australia, where the government has announced an additional $95 million to protect against the highly pathogenic H5N1 avian flu strain. This funding supplements over $1 billion already allocated for biosecurity. So in Australia, as with other parts of the world, obviously, certain bird species are more susceptible to avian influenza, with a current focus on high pathogenic strains like H5N1. The most at risk include waterfowl, shorebirds, seabirds, and scavenging birds. Migratory species such as the bar-tailed godwit, which travel extensively, can be especially vulnerable. Additionally, predatory birds that practice kleptoparasitism, the stealing of other birds' food, sometimes right out of their mouth as they're trying to swallow it, as well as species reliant on single breeding locations like the Abbott's booby and the Christmas Island frigate bird, are at a heightened risk if the virus reaches Australian shores. Scientists are also concerned about the potential transmission to marine mammals like seals and sea lions, which have shown susceptibility in other regions. The Australian government is actively preparing to mitigate these risks, especially as migratory birds return from regions where the virus has been active. France's vaccination campaign for ducks has significantly reduced the H5N1 bird flu outbreak on poultry farms, preventing hundreds of potential cases. This successful initiative demonstrates the effectiveness of vaccination in controlling the spread of avian flu. During the COVID-19 lockdowns, there was a global surge in bird feeding, as I am sure most of you are aware, with interest rising in 115 countries. That's what is kind of the new information here. This increase correlates with greater bird richness, suggesting potential benefits for biodiversity. The pandemic may have lasting effects on bird populations and the connection between humans and nature. In the UK, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds reports that 1,344 birds of prey were illegally killed from 2009 to 2023. These incidents are mainly attributed to rogue gamekeepers protecting shooting estate stocks. And despite claims of zero tolerance, prosecution remains rare. The Royal Society for the Protection of Birds advocates for stricter measures to protect these species. A UCLA study analyzing 27 years of data reveals that North American birds are adapting to climate change by moving northward and higher in altitude, and they're altering their breeding times, all things to adapt. However, these adaptations are insufficient. Birds need to triple their changes to keep pace with warming. The findings emphasize the need for more significant efforts to address climate challenges. And last, researchers have developed a microplastic-free encapsulation system for pesticides, addressing a key challenge in sustainable agriculture. This system effectively delivered fungicides, particularly against gray mold in crops like strawberries and grapes, even adhering to leaves in the rain, which keeps pesticides on the plant, which is where we want them, and not in our water system. The microplastic-free pesticide carrier enhances sustainable agriculture and protects bird populations by reducing microplastic exposure in the food chain. Well, that's it for this episode of the Bird Brief. As always, feel free to let me know if you have a story in which you want to spread the awareness. Just leave a comment here or send it to thebirdbrief@gmail.com. This is Stephanie Jenkins Aslett, and thanks for listening. Please join me in 2 weeks for the next rundown, or should I say featherdown, of the birds we love.